The year is 2025. If you're a business professional who is not generating leads online, more than likely, you're either just getting started or you're behind the 8 ball. Today, I bring on a super special guest who specializes in generating leads online, creating the right type of content, and leveraging AI so that business owners, mortgage brokers, real estate agents can both generate business through the traditional channels as well as through internet marketing. You won't want to miss this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children 18 plus, you are tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast with me, Dustin Owen, and a very special guest. This dude grew up in Ecuador. He resides in San Diego, California. Today, he is with me in Orlando, Florida at Universal Studios because we both are speaking at MortgageCon 2025. He's my friend. He is the founder and CEO of Loans on Demand, and he is your special guest. The one, the only, Luke. The Luke is on fire. Luke Shankula, Loans on Demand. Welcome to the Loan Officer Podcast.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, man. Been a long time coming, I think, right?
Yes, it has been a long time coming. I think you and I first met virtually, was it 2 years ago?
Probably two, maybe even 3 years
Maybe even 3 years ago. You were so gracious. You reached out and you hosted me on your podcast.
Yeah, that was a while ago. Probably 2 years ago that we did the podcast, and we've done some other stuff together. I mean, I think we've done a couple trainings. I think you did some trainings for my people at one point too, so that was cool.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, I shout you out on TLOP. So for our OG TLOPers that tune in, and you'll hear me say, oh yeah, check out Luke Shankula over at Loans on Demand. Like, Luke is one of my resources when I'm trying to decipher this online lead generation world. Like, that's not my background. My background is I know how to teach loan originators the basics,
sure,
right? And I do find the basics is generating 30 leads, funding 4 to 5 loans with needing nothing but a spiral notepad, your pen, your HP 12C financial calculator, your cell phone, and some decent sales skills. Mm-hmm. But then at some point, there's going to come a time where you're like, well, how do I diversify and how do I build upon it? And that's where I'm not an expert. I mean, even with my coaching business, I've had to hire a marketing agency, and I've noticed what you've done for the mortgage industry for, the past decade plus. And I'm excited to talk about what it is that you're doing now in 2025 to help loan originators basically generate leads that they then can use to forge relationships with the local realtors in their market as a way to be someone offering a thing of value in hopes to be able to build a relationship. And then what's the strategies? Like, what are the do's and the don'ts, the tricks, the tips, what's working today versus maybe what was working just 3 years ago? And more importantly, Luke, maybe we can jump in a little bit to what you're talking about when you give your keynote here at MortgageCon 2025. So on that, where do you want to start? That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. That's a lot to unpack. But here, I guess we'll start here is my whole mission with marketing for loan officers is to help loan officers basically flip the status quo on real estate agents, right? So I'm passionate about helping loan officers create more value for their agent partners so they can get more referrals, right? And
I feel like your coach made you say that. Did your coach make you say that?
No, it's not. So the reason for that is, maybe there's agents that listen to this, but for the longest time, the mortgage industry has been, let's call it, subservient to the real estate industry. And that's because at the end of the day, the real estate agents control the leads. And he who controls the lead wins. And so because of that, I do believe that there's a better way to grow your referral relationships than begging people for leads, right? And now that works. I'm a big believer in the old school strategies of grinding it out and going out to networking events and that stuff. But at a certain point, if you're trying to scale beyond a certain point, like, there is some ways that you can generate your own business, right? I'm a big believer in paid ads, and there's some cool strategies that we're doing using paid ads, using branding, using AI to kind of create an ecosystem where you can generate your own leads, create pre-approvals, and hand those off to your preferred partners, or ideally even people that maybe are in a market that you're not in, that you can give these deals to. The cool thing about that is it helps you create leverage. So, like, a quick story, one of our one of our people, loan officers that we work with, Cole, he was able to send, I think he sent 4 referrals to a team out in North Carolina. They had only sent him about 1 deal, I think, in the previous 2 years or so that he had been trying to work with them. In the last 90 days, well, let's call it the last quarter of 2024, he closed over $5 million in transactions from that team. They're sending him every single piece of their business because he gave them 4 deals back in, I think it was June or July of last year.
Wow. Do you know, did all 4 close? Like, it actually funded? Because, sometimes it's nice to have a lead for a real estate agent. And I coach this. Like sometimes it's just a matter of, it's what my mom told me. It's the thought that counts.
Sure.
So if I have a live human on the phone that sounds like they're, of sane mind, and it sounds like home ownership is going to be in their future, I love just to having that referral, even if it doesn't close, because it shows I'm compassionate and I care about their business. Out of curiosity, when you talk about your client story in the Carolinas, do you know, and it doesn't matter, I'm just curious, do you know if all 4 of them actually were funded real estate transactions?
I'm not 100% if they all closed. Here's what I do know is not all of those deals were in the immediate area of that client, right? So this was a broker that's, does a decent amount of business. They have a bunch of agents under them. And so what Cole did is he said, hey, broker, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you every single transaction that I get, any deal, any lead that I get in anywhere in North Carolina. I'm going to give it to you. You get to then hand it off to someone else, get your 25%, 30%, 40% cut.
Okay.
And even if it's not in your area, cool. And what's funny is that I think 2 of those people ended up going cash buyers.
Okay.
So he, as a loan officer, made nothing off of those 2 deals, but he was able to give those deals to an agent, which has made him north of $100,000. Correct. On some transactions that he got from agents. So that's the power of being able to generate your own leads, and that's kind of the big sort of push that I tell people is direct to consumer is less about getting rich off the consumer direct, and it's more about leverage, if that makes sense.
No, I love it. And you mentioned a couple of things that I definitely want to circle back to. I have clients right now that are up in Alaska. Mm-hmm. And, Alaska is a phenomenal market. It's a small market. There's only so many people that live in that great, humongous state. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to continue to be in growth mode yourself and expand, you'll end up looking into Idaho, Colorado, and, some of those states that maybe represent a certain type of person, certain type of home buyer. And when they reach out to me for my coaching services, one of the first questions that we come up with is hey, how do I break into Idaho or Colorado when I'm in Alaska? And, I have my strategies and I coach and teach them through my strategies. And it's a lot of the organic, bringing value, one-to-manys with webinars and getting super involved in hyper local and Facebook groups. But now I literally will have you ever thought about putting some money behind it and working with, a guy like Luke and a company like Loans on Demand, because maybe you put a little bit of ad spend, generate leads, use those leads as a reason to pick up the phone and call an agent that's in Boise, or they're in Coeur d'Alene, or they're down in Fort Collins, or one of the, other markets we're trying to break into. So one, I appreciate that. To me, that's a nice takeaway or a tie down from today's episode for those men and women who are trying to cross state boundaries and they're looking for other strategies. Consider the Luke strategy as one of yours. But I wanted to maybe dial it back a little bit. And I want to ask you, how did you get into this? What was the year? What was the catalyst? And it doesn't have to be super deep, but just on a very surface level, how did Luke Shankula get into generating leads for loan officers?
Yeah, so I actually worked for a reverse mortgage company. I did everything from post-closing to processing intake. I was a broker coordinator. I was an AE for the last 18 months or so. And somewhere around 2017, they kind of imploded, decided to shut down shop. And that's when I got the itch a little bit. I actually had got it a little bit before, but I could do this for myself. So I started a contract processing business. I closed 2 files, and I realized I never wanted to do that again. But I made my first couple grand, and I was like, dude, I can make some money and I don't have to work in the corporate anymore. So I got my license to become a loan officer. I'm like, I'm going to close a bunch of reverse mortgages. I know all the guidelines, and coming to find out that knowing the guidelines and selling to seniors is a very different thing. And so in that process, I fell in love with marketing, right? So I started trying to figure out, how do I generate leads for myself? I started figuring out Facebook ads and, throwing up funnels and doing all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe I can just do this for other people. So I started working with different people. And of course, because I was connected to the mortgage industry, I think my first client, paid client, the first person that gave me money, was a loan officer. Randomly found me on LinkedIn. I don't know if it was God. I don't know what, but like somehow came and hit me up on LinkedIn. It's like, hey, like I see your stuff. Like would love to, do something. So threw up some ads and I sucked. Let's be honest. I was terrible.
You were new. You were getting started. A lot to learn.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that's one thing that I always tell people too, like with video or content and any of that stuff's like, we all suck at something at some point. Like even as a loan officer, you start as a loan officer, you suck. Like people have this idea that they're going to be good at content. They're going to be good at, we talked about podcasting before this, like the first 30, 40, 50 podcasts are probably pretty bad. Maybe better than the average person, but it's tough, right? Doing these things is tough. So, I did that and just learned as I went, learned what worked, what didn't work. And so like that's been the evolution of kind of the marketing strategy that we employ. Is it started out as very lead generation heavy, right? Like, and it still is. I'm a very big direct response guy. Like, hey, put in $5, get a lead out, right? Whatever it is, right? So it's always about one, lead generation, but then second, ROI. But what I didn't sort of take into account was that, especially in an economy like we're in now, trust is such a huge factor in conversion. And because trust is at an all-time low right now because of the economy, because everything that's going on, it's like it makes it more and more important to have a trust-based strategy. And that comes down to reviews. That comes down to branded sort of content, right? Which when I say branded, I mean like you're the brand as a loan officer, right? Like I'm not going to say go put up your corporate flyers because that doesn't work, but talk about yourself, talk about the stories, talk about the people you've helped. Like that's the type of content that's actually going to create that trust. And then also be an expert, right? Show up as an expert. Tell them about the new programs and stuff like that, but that can't be the entire strategy. I think a lot of times people get super focused on business type of content. And the truth is people are attracted to humans, right? Not attracted to businesses generally, right? If that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. So you're now going on, gosh, this is going to be what, year 8 for you? So you kind of got it figured out. You kind of dialed in. And your industry, for those that don't know a lot about it, like it's probably frustrating and also exciting at the same time because it's always changing.
Yes.
Right? Consumer behavior changes, algorithms change. Hell, at one point it was super easy to run ads on Facebook, and then all of a sudden you get the carpet ripped from underneath you and you're going back to square one and you're at the drawing board trying to figure it back out. I'm going to take a pause because your intro, we didn't get a chance to talk about this. You lived in Ecuador?
Yes.
For how long?
I was born and raised there. So I lived there.
Born and raised? Like through 18 years of age?
16 years. So we came here when I was the summer between my sophomore and junior year, we came back to the U.S.
Was English your first language or Spanish your first language?
English was my first
How's your Spanish today?
It's pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah,
still fluent?
Yeah, I still speak fluently. I speak fluently to about 16 years old, right? So
okay.
the business type language and stuff like that, like I can have a great conversation and do all that stuff, and most people will say I have a pretty good accent, but when it comes to like business type language, it's very different, right? Like empresa and all that kind of
hipoteca. I know that one. That's mortgage, by the way, in Espanol. I think that's so cool. Like, what a cool ice breaking story. Right, this 6'5" tall white kid who, by the way, pretty good on the soccer pitch.
All right.
Yeah, I'll give South America some love. Like maybe that was like the South American influence.
Yep.
Right. But yeah, you meet you and I'm like, wait a minute, you were born and raised in Ecuador and you speak Spanish fluently, but your parents were missionaries.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So and you did a really cool not Facebook, but LinkedIn post about that recently.
It was a Facebook post and a LinkedIn post. I'm trying to get into LinkedIn. I'll be honest, LinkedIn is not my platform of choice, but there's some cool strategies that I'm using to we talked about the AI stuff, using some AI strategies to create content that works on LinkedIn as well. So I said, hey, might as well try it.
Yeah. So just getting to know Luke the man. I almost said Dan the man. The reason I said Dan is you say LinkedIn, and I get so excitedly frustrated with what my buddy Dan Smokes is doing over with his LinkedIn cohort.
Right.
Like I have FOMO. I want to be a part of it. And then I'm like, damn, why didn't I figure that out? Like there's an excitement. So Dan and I actually have a call together next Friday. I do plan on joining one of his cohorts because I would like to learn, like, hey, what is working right now? And then is what works right now going to be what's working 9 months from now? I guess none of us ever know. But when you get to know Luke, the man, yes, he grew up in Ecuador, which I think is really cool. You're a dad of 4. Your kids are with you, right, here at Universal?
Yep, they're here.
So they're waiting on you to probably go to the parks at some point.
Yeah, they were in the pool earlier, so.
Yep. You still play soccer?
A little bit.
Yep,
Probably once a week.
About once a week. That's more than a little bit for, old dads like us. And then you're really into, is it disc golf?
Disc golf.
Disc golf.
Yeah.
That's
Everybody
so cool.
It's weird. Everybody thinks it's weird, but hey, don't judge it till you've tried it. Right?
Now, do you go to like Pebble Beach and play disc golf, or they don't let you on for that sport?
There's a lot of actual golf courses that actually do have disc golf in it, but it's easy. I'm not very patient, so I don't think I could play a 4-hour game of golf.
No, they have this thing called fling golf, which is kind of like if like high-lie in golf or lacrosse in golf. I could probably do fling golf, but yeah, normal golf, me and 13 holes, that's about it. And I'm really only good at like driving, putting, and then playing the music. But anyhow, all right, I digress. Let's do this. Give us some highlights. What did the people who didn't get a chance to come to MortgageCon, what did they miss because they didn't get a chance to watch you speak on stage? What are you going to be sharing with those men and women?
So, I mean, the main things that we're going to be talking about today, or I guess tomorrow is when I'm going to be doing this podcast, or not podcast, but presentation. I will be talking about our direct authority strategy, right? And so what that is we're pairing consumer direct lead generation with a branded approach. In marketing, we call it retargeting. But what we're doing is we're creating an audience of people that have intent, right? And so when I say intent, they have shown that they're interested in buying or refinancing, right? So if we put an ad in front of them about a special program or, a first-time homebuyer thing or a webinar for veterans or for first-time homebuyers, those people have expressed intent that they have an interest in doing the thing that we do, which is as loan officers, you buy and refinance, right? And so we're creating an audience of people that have that intent. We're gathering their information. And then what we're doing is we're putting authentic content in front of them. So we do, we say, hey, do video. Obviously, video is huge. But you don't have to do video. You can tell stories. You can tell stories of clients you've helped, of deals you've saved, of maybe the realtor that sent you a deal that went to another, bank or something like that fell apart and you saved that deal. Like that is like the prime stories that you can tell because, and then also being authentic, right? Just being authentically you, telling about your failures, talking about things that went wrong. Like that is the type of content that will actually attract people to want to work with you because again, people are attracted. I mean, you talked about it in your speech, right? Like people are attracted to people, right? People are attracted to people that are similar to them, that have similar likes, dislikes, that are humans. They're not attracted to businesses like we already talked about. So that's the thing I think that people miss out on is be a human.
So your approach for somebody who's looking to themselves get online and start generating leads, right? Because it's one thing to get online,
right?
And I can teach you how to get online and to network, right? So how do I get online to get the people who already know me to continue to refer me? How do I get online to get in front of people who don't know me yet and get them to meet with me so that eventually they refer me? But you're talking about we're going to get online and it's almost like a 2-step approach. The first is we're running an ad, like as an ad, whether it's the Yellow Pages back in 1997, Homes and Land Magazine in 2007, or we're running an ad like you did in Facebook in 2017. It's an ad, but that ad will have some stickiness. Someone clicks on it, someone views it, whatever the case may be. Now, once they click it, once they view it, you're saying you then have a way to retarget a different type of content. Now, it's still a paid content because I like, these aren't my friends on Facebook, are they? Or these aren't my followers on Instagram. These are a unique subset of people, but you're saying now instead of hitting them with an ad, we're going to hit them with like a boosted post.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Effectively, that's what we're doing. Because, so on the front end, we're going to use an objective like conversions, which is like, hey, we want to generate the lead, right? We want them to take an action, which is click the ad, fill out a form. We like to do either one of two things, right? Surveys, which is filling out 12 to 15 pieces of information. The reason for that is because that increases intent, friction, all that kind of stuff, which is like, okay, these are better prospects. Or a webinar, because you get to take the approach of one to many, right? So now you have 30, 40, 50 people on a webinar. You get to present to them. They see you as a human, and then when they book an appointment, they're a lot closer to being a referral quality in terms of like warmness than like, let's say like the survey stuff, right? Surveys, you have to chase them down a little bit more, but you also don't have to do live webinars. And then with that, what we're doing is like we are taking that audience and we don't want to get too into the weeds, but you use like a pixel, a tracking code that then allows us to say, hey, anybody who has been on my Facebook page or been on this page on my website, or that's hit this random landing page, we want to serve other ads to them, right? So we create this audience and you serve other ads. Now you can do, I'm a big fan of also organic direct to consumer stuff, right? YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, like all those platforms for organic. But what's cool about paid ads is you can put a $2 to $5 an ad up for retargeting, and you get to basically follow people around the internet forever. Whereas like you put up an organic video on social media, most likely it's going to be up and then gone within a day.
Yeah, you know what I love about what you do, and trying to like take what you do really well with probably like what I do really well. Like I teach mortgage loan originators how to build, run, and scale their production business successfully, where we eliminate a lot of those peaks and valleys that you would see at one of these roller coasters at Islands of Adventure, right? It's about building a sustainable book of business. That said, there's a certain part of like, we have these 1,200 or 3,000 people that are in our circle. But how am I staying in front of them? And what I'm hearing you say is, well, you have the solutions. Like we don't have to necessarily go out and get strangers.
Yeah.
We can find the people who already know us or know of us, and we can actually run ads, or we can chase them around the internet.
Yep.
And if I had 3,000 people, think about this. If I had 3,000 people who knew who I was and knew what I did, and I followed them around the internet for a couple dollars a day or whatever it costs me, if I ran the numbers, of those 3,000, 60% are or want to be homeowners. So follow along with me at home. So that means basically 1,800 want to be or will be homeowners. I know that roughly every 6 to 8 years, they're going to be obtaining a new home loan, right? So if I just did a quick like division of 1,800 divided by, let's just say 7, then all of a sudden what I'm finding is I have well over 200 transactions a year at my fingertips, and I don't need to find that many strangers. Now you can probably help me find strangers, right? Because if you help me find strangers and we run this same stickiness and retargeting towards them, that's how I'm going to generate leads that I then can hand out to real estate agents throughout whatever footprint I'm either in or I want to be in. And then I can forge that relationship. But I wanted to share with the audience that's like, look, you can go all in, but you can also start small with those men and women who already know you. And Luke said it, you don't have to use video, right? There's text that you can use. There's storytelling you can use. We call them signature stories or evidence of success, or, some kind of a heartfelt message that's going to resonate. Obviously, there's some data behind video that could potentially make your stuff bang or make it more successful. But then you're also using AI right now to create some of this content. Can you speak to that for a second?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been using AI for probably, I don't know, since basically since ChatGPT came out. I when I first got into it, to be honest, probably like everybody else, I was like, man, this is cool, but how does this actually help my business? And I think the biggest problem with most people in the industry that is teaching people AI and stuff like that, it's very high level but not very practical, right? And so like as someone who runs a business, I'm like, well, how do I apply this to my business? So a lot of the solutions that I create, that I end up telling loan officers and people about, is stuff that I created for myself. Like, so content is a huge time suck. Let's be honest. I mean, and I've written long form social media posts for years and years and years. I've been doing that since 2018. And it takes time. If you write a really good post, it can take you like an hour. So I went into these different platforms, ChatGPT, Claude, and I'm like, is it possible for me to create content that sounds like me, that tells my stories, but that takes me a fraction of the time? And so, unfortunately, it took a while to figure it out. It took me probably 8 to 12 months of just like testing stuff and prompting and like figuring out what worked. Maybe it was the algorithms or whatever, the AI platform's getting better as well. I don't know. But I finally, probably about a month ago, figured out a way to create content that sounds like me, that passes as a human. As human. Yeah, exactly. And that actually sounds cool that I want to post, because I had posted before and like it kind of sounded cool, but didn't feel human, if that makes sense. And so this process, I was able to basically upload a whole bunch of my own content and say, hey, like emulate my style, my strategy. It's a specific copywriting framework and stuff like that, right? Like it's a hook and then like there's like a specific framework. But what we can do is we can plug in other people's voices into that, right? Like, hey, take a 60-minute interview of one of our clients or one of the people that I interview and say, hey, like write like this person, like so write like Dustin. I mean, I did that for you yesterday off one of your podcasts.
I was trying to share. He did this for me last night at like 10 o'clock at night. We were all like trying to go back to our rooms or go home to go to bed. And Luke's like, hey, watch this. And it was you, me, and Mark from my team at TLOP. And you took a video, you grabbed the transcripts, you copied and pasted the transcripts into Claude. You used Claude.
Yep.
And then Claude had a chance to recognize my voice, my writing style, or my dialect, my cadence, etc. And then you asked me, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, oh, talk about my coaching company. Like, I'm really excited about my coaching company. And you're like, cool. And all of a sudden, I'm reading this, y'all. And I'm like, damn, that's me. Holy cow. Like, that was some creepy, freaky shit. In a good way and in a little bit of a scary way. Right. But it's like, look, we're not putting this cat back in the bag, so might as well learn how to play with it and hope it doesn't scratch us, claw us, and make our eyes itch and water the way cats do.
Well, it's funny because Mark and I were talking about this yesterday, and we're like, we talk about Claude like this. It's like my little homie, right? My little friend. But the truth is, like, AI is here and it's here to stay, and it's here to transform every industry. Like, it's not just the mortgage industry; it's every industry. And I just think that, unfortunately, there's going to be people that are going to be caught with their pants down. Like it's coming faster than everybody thinks.
I used to say, look, technological advancement is going to impact our world more in the next 5 years than it has in the previous 20. And I make people go back and think about 20 years ago.
Sure.
Everything we didn't have. We'll start with the smartphone, the iPhone, right? That wasn't around 20 years ago. And then I had someone who knows more than I do say 5, try 2.
Yeah.
So I've changed mine to 3. But if you just think about that, think about like if you are not in the know, if you are not an early adopter and a fast follower, like you will easily find yourself what would seem a decade behind, which may only be 9 months behind, if you're not at least cognizant that this is what people are doing in the future. This is 2030 and not 2010. So like I want the loan originators and even the real estate agents who tune in, or the financial advisors or any other entrepreneur and sales professional who tunes in, to know like there's something to be said about tried and true. And tried and true should be a big part of our business, but it shouldn't be our only business, because if it is, we may very well end up the way of the fax machine, end up the way of Blockbuster, right? End up the way of so many other industries if we're not adapting. And I love what you're doing, because you're literally saying, y'all, and I'm going to tell you this, my words, not Luke's. You are professional at whatever you do. Again, real estate agent, mortgage broker, financial advisor. You're not a professional marketeer. You're not a professional lead generator. You're not a professional at utilizing AI and using the right copywriting methodology. Sure. But companies like Loans on Demand are, guys like Luke are. You should really consider, once you've mastered the basics, you should look at diversifying, and this should be a part of your business model going forward. Is there any part of that where I maybe misspoke?
No, I believe that you talk about tried and true, and like, yes, we're using AI, but we're using AI to implement tried and true strategies in just a fraction of the time, right? So it's not like we're coming up with a brand new copywriting style. Like, no, this is a style that I've used for years. It just cuts my time to, like, I can put out 10 times the amount of good content, not crappy content, but good content in a fraction of the time it used to take me to write this content. It's better. Honestly, it's better than me as a human most of the time, unless I, took a couple hours to write it. But, like, it's crazy. And then when it comes to, like, lead generation, I do believe that every single loan officer should be doing consumer direct. That doesn't mean you have to do paid ads. I'll be honest. I mean, obviously we run paid ads. That's a big part of our business. But we got Rebecca. That's over here in the back of the room. That she does a lot of direct consumer stuff organically. Like, you just have to have a strategy to get in front of consumers before they get to agents. I do believe that there is going to be a point in the next 5 to 10 years where most agents are going to have a license or get paid on the transactions. That's just the way the industry seems to be moving. Hey, I could be wrong. It just seems like that's what's happening. And that's because they control the lead. So what do you do, right? As a loan officer, you have to generate your own leads. Now, that doesn't mean that you only rely on consumer direct. I think that's also a kind of a broken model to a certain extent. I think that the loan officer of the future is the one that adopts direct to consumer, that adopts good real estate agent referral partnerships, that adopts financial advisor partnerships, that works their past clients. Like, it's all of the above, unfortunately. I think gone are the days of just showing up and doing loans.
Yeah. No, it's a business. You have to treat your business like a business. You have to be diversified. I mean, I'm diversified in my personal wealth generation strategy, right? Sure. Owning a home by itself, great way to generate wealth. I'm not going to get rich owning one home. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get rich by having X amount of dollars in the savings account. I have to own a home, have savings, invest in my 401k, have an IRA, as well as potentially be investing in ETFs and mutual funds. I need to do it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then turn around and say, oh, wow, look at what I've been able to accumulate. But I was working it from 5 different angles. Like, the same thing applies running our business.
Sure.
Right? Yes, you're going to work your circle of influence. And how you work it may be with some kind of a online marketing strategy. Online marketing is not new. Right? We're 20 years now of online marketing. So there's nothing new about what you do. Yes, you're using new tools to make it easier, to make it more impactful, but it's not new. So yes, loan originators need to have their relationships with the real estate agents. I do believe that realtors will have less control over the transaction. Consumers will find information much quicker and much easier, at which point they may still ask their realtor, but the realtor's going to refer somebody who, if they don't show up online, then all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't know if I really trust my realtor. This person has no reviews. This person has no website. This person's online presence is non-existent, i.e. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc.
Right.
And then it's like, yes, if it truly is a race to the consumer, loan originators, mortgage brokers, everyone else who's tuned in, what do your marketing efforts say about you today as it pertains to getting to the consumer first? And I think that's really important for them to know. And then now you know a really good resource who's in your space that you can reach out to. So if people do want to reach out to you, what is the best way to find Luke, to find Loans on Demand?
You can find me on Facebook at Facebook. I think it's facebook.com/Shankula. You can go to our website, loansondemand.io.
.io.
Okay. Yeah. We're a technology company, man. Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't even know what IO stands for.
It's technology typically. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, we do a lot with AI. We do a lot of trainings. We do a lot of coaching. We do some little, paid low ticket type stuff as well. Just really, my goal is always to give as much value as possible, and to also be practical about the advice I give. It's just like, hey, what can be implemented and give it, what can you implement today to get you business? And that's always how I've run my podcast. That's how I've always run my content. It's like, it's practical, right? I think there's a lot of times people want to get super high level on stuff, and that works, but tactical stuff is also cool. And I think tactical things change. So it is important to have the foundations of a long-term vision, but also understanding that, hey, some of these platforms, like if you get on them now, you're gonna make a whole bunch of money, right? I think AI, I saw a buddy of mine, he got 2 leads from ChatGPT because he's like the low down payment VA guy, and his content online is showing that. And so he's getting leads from ChatGPT, which is crazy. Leads from ChatGPT.
Literally. Like someone is going to chat and someone is saying, I'm looking for VA home loans, and then chat saying, oh, you should check out Bob Smith at Bob's Mortgages.
Yep, 100%.
Wow. I was today years old. Here's what I do know, and here I heard you say, if you're curious, reach out. Right? There is no one size fits all. Just like with our clients, there's no one size fits all solution for our clients. There's no one size fits all for you in your business. But if you reach out to Luke and you see his product offering, Luke can work with you to figure out what's going to work best for you in where you are in your career, as well as where you are in your market.
Yeah,
that's probably the easiest way to even start tiptoeing into some form of a online marketing lead generation strategy.
Yeah, we have things from like $47 up to like us doing it for you for thousands of dollars a month. So we have everything for everybody. And our goal is to make it accessible for anybody. And I think that's what's important too, is just taking action and
Well, I am super stoked that we finally got to meet in real life after all these years. The the Cali kid, the Florida kid. I mean, literally one side of the country, the other side of the country, both in at least sunny areas, you know.
Yep.
I'm in Orange County. You're almost in Orange County, a little bit further south than Orange County. But no, Luke, I thoroughly appreciate our friendship. I admire what you do. I endorse what you do for our listeners. And look, if y'all like content like this, please make sure you're coming back as well as sharing it. And when I say sharing, like sharing is caring, not once, not twice, but 3 times with someone you know that would benefit from this content. If you're looking for coaching, we have plenty of free coaching. I would tell you to start by going to our YouTube channel and subscribe. I would tell you to go to our website, tloponline.com, sign up for the newsletter, because the newsletter is how you'll get invited to one free signature masterclass that I teach every single month. And then if you want more, such as accountability, such as 8 live coaching calls, learning from top producers throughout the country, we have 3 different offerings through TLOP and TLOP's Originator Coaching. All that information is found on our website, tloponline.com. We have coaching that starts as little as $250 a month and can end up being up to thousands if you're getting private coaching one-on-one directly with me. But he's Luke Shankula. I'm Dustin Owen. You've just tuned in to the Loan Officer Podcast. That is all the time we have for you today, but we do look forward to catching you on the next episode. Peace.